Very excited. My name is Toby. Very excited to host this morning's panel. Normally, as you probably know, the press gets to ask vendors many, many questions. And we decided this morning to turn the tables on the press. So Fred,
great idea.
It is a great idea. So Fred and I, we're not sure which one is Ed McMahon and which one's going to be Johnny Carson.
I volunteered to hold the cocktails,
but we decided to co-host, and we have a very distinguished panel. Let me just introduce who we have. So sitting closest to us is Danielle Jerschefske from Labels and Labeling, also Package Print Worldwide. Sitting next to her is Sophie Matthews-Paul, Specialist Printing Worldwide, focusing on inkjet, also your website, mrs-inkjet.com. And at the very end, Cary Sherburne from WhatTheyThink. So we have a great amount of coverage. We tried to do the opposite of some of the other panels and make sure we were focused on the other gender for just a little bit. And it's going to be fun, I think, for Fred and I to ask away.
None of them are eligible for Obama's cabinet.
Binders and binders.
So why don't we start off? I'd love to just ask you each to introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about your publication, what segment is it focused on, and where can the audience members read your work? Why don't you start, Danielle?
Okay. I'm Danielle. I'm the North American editor for Labels and Labeling magazine. It is a global publication. We have about 26,000 readers worldwide, spread throughout about 120 countries or so. My sector, well, it's labels and labeling, so you can guess it, it's about labels. With Package Print Worldwide, we also focus on package printing specifically, which has been very exciting for us. I think we've all seen, going through the supermarket, some of the shifts in the flexible packaging world in various markets. And also we cover folding carton and so some of the dynamics around the folding carton world as well.
That's great. Thank you. Welcome. Sophie?
Thank you. I'm Sophie Matthews-Paul. This year I decided I'd come here for Specialist Printing Worldwide, although I write internationally for a lot of titles. I'm also an industry consultant. I've been in inkjet for really since it started, which ages me a bit. Puts me on the Senior Citizens League. Specialist Printing Worldwide is quite a topical title at the moment because it looks very much more at some of the industrial and the functional print technologies, as well as what we've come to accept from wide format printing and production printing. So it's a great title to work for. It has its own website, which is specialistprinting.com. You can find me at mrsinkjet.com, or you can come and find me later and ask me who I am. But it's a changing market, and I find that some of the expectations are going to be very different in the next few years. So it's great to be here.
Wonderful to have you. Cary?
So I'm a senior editor at WhatTheyThink, and we're an online-only publication, as I'm sure most of you know, so by default we're kind of global, right? And we do have a global audience. I've been affiliated with them since 2002. It was founded in 2000, and it's evolved over those years, obviously. We were one of the first publications to incorporate video, and we've been doing video since 2007, and so we got thousands of videos, done a lot of those videos online, and we do a lot of webinars and things like that. We also have a special section that focuses on wide format, and we're looking into adding a special page that focuses on packaging, and we really think of ourselves as following the printing and publishing industries because they're kind of related. So. And I came at this whole thing from the digital end. I mean, I was at Xerox in the early days with workstations and DocuTech, and I learned yesterday that I have been associated with EFI longer than Gygax.
Wow.
Yeah. I was shocked.
So how do your publications handle digital printing? And do they handle it differently, and are there different challenges for you versus kind of the traditional technologies that serve the segments you cover?
We had a separate site called On Demand Journal, and for a while that was kind of popular because it was still sort of a niche application, but it's not anymore. It's really mainstream, and so it's just all together. And I don't think we really distinguish between it's a printing technology. It's just one of them that's out there.
And Sophie, any?
Well, one of the things I've noticed, I've been with Specialist Printing Worldwide as editorial consultant for 4 years now. They were originally far more concentrated on analog technologies, particularly screen printing and pad printing. And one of the tasks I was given was to build up the digital side, which has happened very quickly because there's so much to say. It's not a news publication, it's very technical. And we tend to run a lot of papers and reports. It's not a traditional publication that would sit very well just on the web. People tend to keep it as a directory. But it's a good example of seeing how the transition from analog to digital works and how both of them can sit together as well in similar environments or even in the same applications.
Now, Danielle, in your space, you see a lot of the digital providers now are looking towards packaging, A, because it's not under threat from any other technologies to go anywhere anytime soon. So do you have to handle it differently, or does your publication treat it differently?
Well, I mean, in the labels and packaging world, digital printing is really still in its infancy. As you've seen from some of the other presentations here, only about 2% of the labels worldwide are printed digitally. So in the last 5 years, our writing has really been a lot about education, helping educate our readers on what some of the differences are between inkjet, dry toner, liquid toner, what some of the benefits are, what some of the challenges might be, and trying to help them understand how each technology may or may not fit their business appropriately. And then helping them understand too that digital isn't here to take over the flexo world. At the moment, it still is a complementary technology, and the converters who have adopted it are doing very well, are extremely profitable, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes moving forward in the label and packaging world. Brands themselves have yet to be very educated on digital. When it was first introduced to the marketplace, there was some issues as far as color consistency, etc. And they're just starting to understand what some of the opportunities are as far as doing personalization, customization, regionalization, etc. And so it's an exciting time right now in the label and packaging world with digital.
Oh, I bet.
Here we are on day 3 of Connect. It certainly feels like there's a lot of buzz, as it always does, I guess, being an EFI employee here at Connect. What do you think the customers benefit that they get out of coming to Connect? Gary?
I talked to, various attendees, and I've been to a number of Connects. In fact, I think I've been to every Connect except one where you allowed the media to attend, because in the old days we weren't welcome.
That was the best. You missed a great year. That was a great one.
I think that was prior to EFI, but anyway, and always I think the first thing that comes out of people's mouth is the opportunity to network with their peers. And people, people always say to me, aren't people worried about, they compete with each other and aren't they sharing? No, I just see a real openness among the attendees to share with each other and learn from each other. And then the second thing that pops out of their mouth is their ability to get closer to the executives and the product managers and the technical people at EFI and really, be able to express their opinions and then see that come out, in future developments. So I think those are and then there's the learning, of course, but the networking and the ability to really get close to, to EFI people is so important.
Anything different from you two ladies?
I think the focus is the key, the fact that you're focused on the areas that you're interested in if you're a customer, and if you're an EFI customer, that you can't be good at everything, you can't be an expert at everything, and there may be parallel areas of things you're doing already that you want to learn more about, and you can do that in a targeted environment rather than just trying to get information off the internet or by email or getting somebody to visit you. And you can also discover things that you thought might not apply when you go through the program at Connect and the breakout sessions and you think, wow, I didn't know I could learn about that here. And also I like the way that, if something clashes, you've got the opportunity most times to go back and have another go. Or if something really interests you, you think, actually, I'm going to go and sit through that one again because that was really cool. But it's targeted and it's focused, and you really are concentrated on the areas you want and the areas that are close to that. And you're not sort of having to worry about somebody from a competition coming to drag you away and say, oh, we can do a better deal. It is EFI and EFI partners, and I think that's exactly the right balance.
Good. Anything to add, Danielle?
I think it's reassuring to come to a place where you can be building camaraderie with your peers and know that, you know, print isn't dying. It's not going to be. It's been around for a long time, and this is a great place to find out what's new, what's fresh, and to really find out how things are changing. And one of my favorite things about Connect certainly are the fireside chats. I think for every single one that I've been a part of, there are some seriously great nuggets in there, and I think everybody has something that they can take home and implement into their business and be more successful.
Yeah, those are certainly fun. We had some animated ones this year, some excitement, maybe some things we didn't expect.
You know, the other thing, Toby, I'd say is it's been interesting to watch the conference evolve because, you know, it started out just as, you know, well, not just, but it started out being really the print cafe and all around the software. And as you've added different things to your portfolio, you know, the show's brought in. And I was really interested to see, you know, Fiery migrate in because it was sort of there last time, but only for the dealers, and now it's, you know, it's much more involved with the rest of the attendees. What, you had 10 Fiery sessions, right, for people. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's neat. It's great, obviously, to have that. We just keep wanting to make that bigger and bigger.
The other feeling I get from the EFI point of view, obviously it's not just an altruistic exercise. You're going to be learning off customers as well. And what
from our standpoint, of course, it's wonderful.
So it's a two-way street.
A product manager's dream.
Yeah.
You know, everyone in the company wants to come.
Yeah.
It's the only challenge we have. We can't always bring everybody.
So you talk about this evolving. As we were preparing for this last night, I couldn't mentally get past the makeup of our panel, kind of in contrast to the testosterone-laden, traditional, male-dominated printing industry. Has it presented unique challenges for you, and do you see that changing, and what would be the positive impacts of it?
You know, I think that we're going to get some different answers here. I'm going to say
I
up
wasn't
front,
going to touch the generational gap
well,
that exists.
yeah. I'm going to say up front, I'm the oldest person on this panel. Well, I don't know about you, but the oldest female on this panel. So I have to tell you that I started my career in the aerospace industry, and the printing industry was easy after that. Trust me. I don't know. I've just never paid any attention to it. I mean, I guess it was just the way I was brought up, and I never really thought about it. You know, I just sort of plowed ahead and did what I was going to do. But it is, to me, really encouraging to see, you know, the increase in the number of women executives, both on the vendor side. You know, Ursula is a great example, and Anne before her. And in the printing companies, I do a lot of interviews with printers for case studies and press releases and things like that, and I'm talking to more and more women presidents of these companies, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I've found that I've always tended to work in a sort of male-dominated environment because I was a news photographer back in the 70s, and I was the only girl. I was a girl then, not an old woman.
You're still a girl.
And I was also sort of half the size of everybody else, so they tended to sort of wrap me up in cotton wool and look after me and make sure I didn't fall off scaffolding and carry my camera. So I got a bit spoiled. So moving across into printing in the late 70s, I didn't have a problem. I think the only people that really had a cultural problem were the Japanese, who could never quite look me in the eye and speak to me up front back then. They would look at the floor or look at somebody I was with. They found it quite difficult to address a female directly. But no, it's not been a problem.
Do you see, so from what I heard, it sounds like you think the industry is going to change? We'll see more of a
I don't
balance?
think it needs to. I think, you know, it's going to be the people rather than their gender that are doing what we're doing. And it doesn't really matter whether they're female or male or in between. I don't know what I'm saying.
Both,
But
neither.
we have this gender divide on the stage, which I
Maybe
find
we'll
kind of
have to, maybe we'll have to mix up the seats.
Yes, we should have had this boy, girl thing.
Exactly. Well, girl, boy, girl.
With you guys, it might not have been obvious who were the moderators and who's actually asking the questions.
Well, we did cut our hair short. You know.
I just wanted to chime in just on the gender issue as well. You know, I've seen so many, like you mentioned, executives, et cetera, et cetera. I think too, you know, some of the inherent, you know, visual characteristics of women and being able to see color traditionally a little bit better than men. I'm certainly seeing more women in the label and packaging world moving into pre-press and doing some of this color management. And I can tell you, you know, I see a lot of women more often too that are running presses. And it's it's exciting. And from a younger female perspective, I think being young and coming in and being fresh, it's always a challenge no matter what. But I certainly would not be as knowledgeable as I am today if I hadn't had some of the gentlemen take me under their wing and share some of the world of labels and packaging with me. So.
That's great. Yeah, I noticed all three of you wore black as well. You mentioned women are more in.
And of course, women are so good. We're so good at multitasking.
Here's a follow-up question to that. So you talked about how the industry might change as far as gender. If you were to go back 5 years, this is not a gender-specific question, but if you were to rewind time 5 years and look back at 2013, I saw recently a clip that the movie Back to the Future, the date that he goes in the future was actually a couple of weeks ago. So, wow, obviously we missed the mark there. But if you were to go back 5 years and look back at and say, well, January 2013, what about present day surprises you the most? Is there anything now that you look at the industry and say, I didn't see that coming at all?
Who do you want to start?
Go ahead.
All right. I think that, I think I would maybe go back to January of 2012 maybe and look at that, because I think the whole emergence of mobile and the rapidity with which that happened was stunning. And I really believe that, you guys have done some interesting things with mobile, and print me's been around forever. You were ahead of the curve on that. But as a whole, I think the industry has not moved quickly enough on mobile. And we should have learned our lesson from the internet, because we didn't do it quickly enough either then. So I would hope that as we look forward to next year, that we see a much more rapid adoption of the opportunities associated with mobile in our industry. Even though it's not print, it's a big opportunity for people.
So you think we missed something? How about you two? Anything surprise you?
As far as mobile, one of the great things about mobile and social is, you have a phone, you can walk down an aisle of a store, and instantly you can get information about whatever product it is that you're thinking about purchasing. And there's some serious opportunity to link print in labels and packaging to the mobile and social world. It's happening, the uptake is pretty incredible in the last couple of years. You see more QR codes, people understand what they are, and I think that's just going to proliferate as we keep moving forward. New opportunities such as augmented reality, the cost of RFID tags has come down, NFC codes are becoming more popular. I think Apple wants more people to buy more phones because they didn't actually put an NFC reader in their latest phone, but I think we can anticipate that being into the next. And as far as brand owners are concerned, when they're talking about marketing and trying to get people to buy their products, mobile and social is the way forward. And if you can print something on a label and package to get people to interact with your brand, and you can communicate with them personally, you can sell more product, and that's what it's all about.
So social's not the enemy of print. Sounds like it's the friend in your. Would you agree with that, Sophie?
Well, what's quite interesting is I see it from a slightly different viewpoint, because
is that an age thing?
It's not an age thing. I've lost my thread. That's an age thing. No, I see it from a different viewpoint, because one of the areas that has moved very quickly, although it's been around for a while, I think a lot of industrial printing and functional printing is now coming through. And in an ironic sort of way, that ties in with what the other two are saying, because we're using digital print. We can use it now to print some of these mobile devices that everybody should be carrying around with them. So we can print on difficult materials we couldn't in the old days. So there's a link with the social side and the media side there, because you still need an industrial print device to produce the thing in the first place. Even laptop covers and fancy things like that. So the industrial side, it's not all sort of boring membrane switches, which I love. Oh, yes.
So is the notion that kind of floats around in other circles that print is dead? I mean, here at Connect, I don't see the Grim Reaper walking the halls. And is it just because it's a digital show, or is there life here?
There's nobody from Google here either, is there, at the moment?
There's
Nobody from Google.
Yeah. No. I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit here, because this is a pet peeve of mine. I really think that as an industry, we're taking the whole wrong approach. I mean, print is dead. Come on, print is not going anywhere. I mean, it's changed, and its role in the media mix and its role in our lives is changing. And so one of our colleagues put out a LinkedIn message to the world yesterday, the day before, again today, about that everybody should stop using Google because Google said we're going paperless, try to go paperless. I mean, and it's like, wait, you know, I mean, that's not going to happen. And so I think that, you know, as an industry, again, we need to be really thinking about it from the customer's perspective and what is it that they're trying to accomplish and how can we help them. And we have the images, we have the content, we have the assets. Why can't we also offer them services that are related to mobile and social media? And I mean, some companies are doing it, but I don't see a critical mass of companies doing it.
You don't think all 2,000 people in this room should get together and show Google a message? I mean, that'll really, if we don't use Google products, that'll really show them.
It would have a huge impact on their revenues, I'm sure.
Yeah, so what they all need to do...
I think you couldn't avoid Google if you tried.
No.
I mean, you maybe might not go to the Google search site.
Everywhere, yeah. So.
But what everybody must do, of course, is you don't rely on your iPad or your iPhone for your boarding pass to get home. You print it out.
Yeah, we agreed on that.
Yeah, we were discussing this yesterday because, of course, it's great. You get to the airport, you've only got your boarding pass and your battery's flat.
Yeah.
And what do you do then? Yeah, or their scanner doesn't work.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, I don't know how many of you were here last year for Guy's fireside chat with the executive from Shutterfly.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was some very interesting points in there linking print specifically to social and mobile. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody has a camera on their phone now. Everybody has one. And what do you do with those pictures? You want to print them, you want to make a book, you want to share them with people, and there's aesthetics about print. You know, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can smell that ink. You know, there's something about it, and you know, it's just changing. We're in a transformation, so.
And so I don't think that we should be taking a defensive posture. That's my whole point, is we should be taking a positive approach that says, hey, if you think about a marketing group and they're putting together some kind of a program or a campaign, the sad thing is that too many of us are not at the table in those discussions. So they're going along saying, oh, we're going to do email, we're going to do web, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Oh, let's do a postcard. And then they call purchasing, give me the cheapest price on, 50,000 postcards. That's not where we want to be. That's not where we want to be. We want to be at the table discussing it and saying, well, have you considered doing this or that? And maybe there's print, maybe there's not, but we should be able to build our business around both those options.
The value of print can enhance all of those other
Exactly.
opportunities for communications. It's just a piece of the puzzle.
I think there's another important aspect, which has actually only really just sort of struck me, although it's been ticking away in the background, is that when you have a printed product, you actually have control of it when you have it in your hand. And if it's a photograph or a document or a letter from your solicitor that you're sending to somebody you don't like very much, you actually have control of that. The moment that you put it via the web, whether it's to put it on Facebook or any of the sites, or even email it using Google or somebody else, you don't feel comfortable that you're the only one that owns that document. Something could happen to it. Google's servers could crash or something could happen, which does happen. But it gives you a control that you don't get using any other kind of media. And I think that is obviously going to be very pro-print.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like it's not a one versus the other. I mean, when I got a microwave in my house, I didn't throw out the oven.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time for us. And I want to say one other thing. That I think that if you look at, we mentioned QR codes, and there's a number of other, snap tags and augmented reality and personalized URLs. Those things enhance print and extend the life. I was talking to the publisher of Newspapers and Technology magazine, right? And she's using an augmented reality solution, and she calls it lighting up the ads. So you can with the app, you can point your phone at the ad, and whatever the vendor wanted to put there, whether it's their Twitter account or it's a video of their product or whatever it is. And the cool thing is that you think about going to a doctor's office and you pick up those old magazines. Well, with that kind of, interactive print, what's behind the print can be changed at a moment's notice. So now when you pick up that old magazine in the doctor's office, whatever the augmented reality was when it was published, the content is probably different now, and it keeps it current. So that's really exciting.
That is true. I don't like to touch anything in the
But
doctor's office.
yeah, they're coughing on it. But, you know,
If I could just bring my own iPad, that's fine. I mean,
but I have to tell, I'm going to do a Benny Landa thing. Can I tell a story?
depends what kind
I'm
of
not,
story.
I'm not bringing up anything to do with Debbie. I mean, it has nothing to do with Debbie. But I was talking to a printer who's of an age with us, right, in Southern California, and he was telling me, that he and his wife went on a tour of Napa Valley, wine tour, and they were on this, bus. There were 6 couples, and they were the oldest couple, and, eventually the conversation comes around to what do you do for a living, and he said, I'm a commercial printer, and this person of about Danielle's age said, oh, I just knew you were in commercials. You're so funny. And he's like, oh. That was like, I think I have to find a different way to describe myself.
You each kind of touched upon this a little bit. I think you mentioned the transformation of print. So I want to ask you, what does the transformation of print mean to you, and where are we with that transformation? Danielle?
So I'm going to let you guys start, actually, on that one.
You start.
I think transformation is an odd word. I mean, if we're talking about analog to digital, and you can't just sort of take a knife and cut them in half and say that's that one and that's that one. I think there's a lot more mix of processes that goes on than people realise too. It's not going to be all analog or all digital. It's going to be a combination of two. And even if you're using digital for proofing, and then analog for your longer runs, or you're doing test runs on digital just to get it right. And even variable data jobs, they could be printed analog, and then the variable element is added afterwards. Doesn't happen so much now, but I think we've all talked about the transformation. I think it was more evident at Drupa 2008, everybody was going on about it, and then last year's Drupa, we found they were still going on about it. And I'm sure at IPEX in next year, whoever's there will be going on about it. And it's just going to carry on. But I don't think there's going to be a clear-cut date or process that's going to differentiate one from the other. I think it's just going to be a mix of both. I mean, Benny has said that analog printing isn't going to go away, hasn't he? So that's my thought on it.
Yeah. And I think the whole issue of transformation isn't really about print. It's about the transformation of the businesses in the industry. It's all about, how we manage our businesses differently, how we address our customers' needs differently, how we position ourselves differently to meet emerging customer needs and, and serve a wider range of their needs. And so it's the businesses, the underlying businesses that have to transform. And, you guys are providing a lot of great tools that help people do that. We talk about
if we stay with the transformation theme, and we were really honored to help sponsor this event, and our legacy with EFI really is started with the Fiery offering. Yet EFI themselves has transformed tremendously over the last 5 years. Do you think the industry understands all that EFI brings and the role they can play in the industry?
No, I think EFI needs to do a much better job of putting that out there, to be honest. Sorry, Holly. Because it's so broad. And I talk to people all the time, and they're like, oh, they do that? I didn't know that. And then how it all links together. I think you're getting better at articulating that, but not only what you have, but how it all links together, because it all links together. And Udi, you did a great job on that thing. Sorry. Had to bring
Next year, Udi, you get a panel, maybe.
Yeah, the awe experience, the automated workflow experience, I think does a good job of beginning to bring that together, but no, I don't think people get it.
And I think, when we talk transformation, I think one of the biggest things that I'm seeing in the industry now is, in the label and packaging world, it's been traditionally a very wasteful industry. We know what the margins are now. We know what the pressures are with raw material costs rising, with, brand owners or customers wanting, cheaper, but just as great. So when you look at MIS systems and streamlining processes, it's critical to business. And a lot of those things, EFI can offer, not just MIS and some of the things driving these systems on the front end that make you more productive and allow you to increase your margins. But, certainly in the label and packaging world, we're all about inline. You know, we want to put a roll on the front end and pull off product on the back end and send it out the door right away, which, you know, the new Jetreon system is a perfect example of that. You know, some of the issues with the label and packaging world around digital printing is, you know, these guys are used to having finished product come off the end of the press. And so they didn't quite understand, well, wait a minute, you mean I have to take a roll off and then die cut it and then emboss and then send it out the door? So, you know, when Jetreon brought this, you know, digital press system into the market, they certainly changed the dynamics. And, you know, again, there's more efficiency, opportunity for more margins, and, you know, that's what it's all about.
I think in the wide format space, in the old days, you were limited to screen printing, and it was cost prohibitive to be able to do a short run or a one-off. And I think the advance of digital print in that sector has meant that it's open to anybody. And some of the premium applications are one-offs not for business customers, for consumers, because they're prepared to pay far more for, say, a photograph or a print that's been done digitally that they can put on their living room wall, and they haven't got to order 500 of them and think, oh, I'm going to do these. You know, and it's opened up the potential for all sorts of applications that go far beyond the conventional jobs that we used to see screen printed. But it's certainly the flexibility, the run lengths that have been the transformation there. And now that's moving across, obviously, into labels. I mean, Jetreon's a classic example. If somebody only wants 50 labels, you can do it now. But imagine doing those flexo.
Right. And you can deliver it in 24 hours or 48, which is that's dynamic as well.
So I, you know, look at this and say I almost sometimes feel bad for the customers. Here you're saying the portfolios from the vendors are very difficult to understand. There's all these new applications. By the way, they have to integrate their entire infrastructure if they want to have margins and survive. You know, it leads me to say, you know, they need a helping hand. You know, I wanted to ask you, obviously, you know, my co-host here, Xerox, is going through a massive transition as far as being, focusing on services and adding service. What's the role of service in our industry? You know, and how important is that going forward? Is that going to change?
You know, it's going to be increasingly important. So the whole range of services, and you know, I have to compliment my old alma mater, Xerox, because you know, you guys have really been a leader in terms of bringing business development services and expanding those. You know, I think it's Profit Accelerator, right?
Yes.
Is it? So, you know, expanding the range of those. So whether it's helping people understand, you know, how to establish pricing or how to, you know, train their sales force or, you know, or how to run the machine. I mean, you know, it goes from end to end. And I see more and more vendors doing this now. So it's increasingly critical that, you know, that you be able to provide that kind of support. And I don't think that people expect that to be free. I mean, you know, it's a professional service. So it's, you know, Ursula's on the right path there with saying, hey, you know, we're going to move more to services business because the box is the box is the box, and you've got great boxes and other people have great boxes. And what's important is the whole process in the shop and from customer to end of life.
It's only as good as everything around it.
Right, exactly. So services, whether it's break fix or it's professional services or it's the training or whatever it is critical. And it, you know, conferences like this really emphasize that. I mean, you know, Toby, you guys are you know, doing a tremendous service for the folks here in terms of the, what was it, 180 educational sessions? You know, I don't think everybody went to all 180, but, you know.
But are we effective, you know, whether it's EFI or Xerox, in communicating with everybody on how we can help them and serve the industry?
I think in your customer base, I don't know about, you know, I don't know how you're doing with prospects with it, but I think your customer base pretty much understands, you know, what's available to them.
Do you think we set the right expectations with the customers? That, hey, it's not just the box, it's not just the product.
All right, so sometimes, you know, okay, so there's still an issue, and I don't know how you fix it because Xerox has been trying to fix it for 30 years, right, about selling boxes. I mean, you manufacture boxes, so, you know, we're selling boxes. So there's an issue maybe with certain vendors in the field about, okay, the box is out there, boom, I'm gone, I'm moving to the next box, you know. So I think that you know, we need to be thinking beyond the box, and that's all about the services. How are they going to make money on it, and how but more importantly, what's the benefit to the end customer? And you as the vendor, can bring a really broad knowledge that the individual business probably has a hard time getting.
You think that's true in all the segments?
Yeah, I think it's the line of communication, and it's whoever is looking after the service side, whether it's one person or a team, it's a very valuable link between the end customer and the supplier. And it's a unique link because they get a lot more information than, say, a salesperson would get if they just happen to call in on the company. And I think increasingly, because we expect things to work straight away, we don't expect there to be problems. Everything's automated. I mean, even our service intervals are probably automated. We don't need to leave it up to sort of chance at all. But just the value of having that communication via a human being that comes in. I mean, remote diagnostics are great, but you still need that human contact. It makes you feel, if you're a customer, that you've got somebody looking after you. It's not just, dial this number and sit on the phone for 2 hours and then press all these buttons and then be asked to be called back later. I think you need the human element, and service is the way you do it.
So
I hear when I talk to printers, I hear them say, I don't want a vendor, I want a partner. And I don't know how the audience feels about that, but you got to be a partner. You got to care about what they're...
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's right now, if a box shows up, a lot of people, especially if they're going through this transformation, don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And certainly one of the hardest things for me is if I visit a fiery customer and we spent all of this time and energy putting in all these new great features, this, that, and the other thing, and then we go there and, if the customer's not using it, if they don't know how to take advantage of it, if they haven't seen how it could help them, it certainly hurts as a vendor. So we ask ourselves, what could we do differently? How can we make this easier?
I think it's a double-edged sword, though, because if you're not careful, the service person has to become all things to all men, and if somebody's got a problem, he's got to try and provide the reassurance and get it fixed. And and a lot of problems, obviously, are operator-generated anyway, as we know, and nothing to do with the manufacturer. It's understanding, but somebody's also got to have the right level of knowledge to know when to put their foot down, and you don't want somebody just taking advantage.
Yeah. If we fast forward 5 years, we ask you to look back and kind of predict what surprised you. If I now fast forward 5 years in each of the segments that you guys cover, what do you think it's going to look like? Maybe you start off with what's the biggest trend that there is in your segment now, and where do you think it might go in 5 years?
I think we might see dancing labels and packages on the retail shelves pretty soon. Really. I mean, the cost of printing, intelligent labels and intelligent packaging. I mean, it's there already. And so I think in 5 years, I've been saying for the last 5 years, I feel like I'm in this Jetsons world, and every single day that becomes more and more true. Something else comes up, and you're like, gosh, is this real? Am I going to be able to fold up my car into a nice little briefcase and carry it into my office with me? But really, I think sustainability is going to be a huge part of the labels and packaging world. So being able to laminate with adhesives that are going to break down in a landfill if they go there, communicating effectively on labels and packaging to educate consumers about what they can do with the primary container, with the shrink sleeve that's around it. All of those things add value, and we have limited resources, so we need to figure out how to close that loop and bring it forward. So certainly sustainability is going to be a huge factor in the label and packaging world. And I think we're going to be seeing more and more. We talk about fast fashion. H&M and some of these other guys, they're changing their stores every 6 weeks, 8 weeks or so. And I think we're definitely seeing that trend in the label and packaging world. Okay, so, we have Christmas, and then there's New Year, and then there's the Super Bowl, and then there's Valentine's Day, and then there's St. Patrick's Day.
You need different outfits for the New Year's and the Super Bowl?
Hey, it could all tie together. Maybe you'll get a great little package of coffee with your sweater that you buy, and they're all going to be green and what have you. But I think the idea is that, it's turning into fast packaging too. So with digital printing, it empowers these brand owners to really cater to, specialty applications that consumers are interested in. we know that, you know, people of my generation and the generations below me have a very limited attention span. So when you can change that package and catch their attention.
I thought it was just my kids.
Oh,
I forgot the question.
I'm sorry, what? I'm tweeting here. So, you know, there's definitely some interesting dynamics going on there, and we're seeing that now, and it's just going to continue. It's fun, it's exciting.
Is sustainability, is that an important trend in the other print segments, or is it just something that gets a little lip service and is on the side?
You know, there was like I think in Europe it's probably more important, but here in the United States we're different, a little more wasteful. But you know, there was this big push for a while, and you know, everybody was trying to be, you know, FSC certified and blah, blah, blah. But when you talk to people, they say, when you talk to buyers of print and producers of print, they're like, nobody wants to pay extra for that. So, you know, I think there's still a lot of lip service in the commercial printing environment.
And I think it is changing. I think the businesses who have adopted it and embraced it and put it at the core of their business, because it is now, you know, the fourth pillar of business, really. They are actually making money. They're winning business because of their stance. And there isn't always a cost to sustainability. So sometimes the cost could be, you know, losing consumer base, losing customers. So there's certainly opportunities there when we talk about efficiency, and streamlining processes. You know, that is sustainability. Not being wasteful, being lean. You know, that is, you know, you don't want to be wasteful.
It seems like the sustainability card really only gets played, though, when there's money to be saved. Is there ever going to be a tipping point where people say, I'm willing to pay more, but it's got to be sustainable?
One of the things I think I've noticed in Europe and in the UK is that it's all very well offering sustainable print, but if you're using a designer and an agency that has no concept of how they can turn that into a product, the whole thing falls flat. And a lot of people now have sort of green offices that insist, you know, we've got to look for environmental credentials for this, that, and the other. But if the design team isn't aware of it, the specifier of the materials doesn't know where to look to get something to be recycled, the actual print process, it's a complete waste of time.
There's an educational gap.
Yeah.
And like you say, too, with cost, right? I mean, you know, Walmart is big and lean and green, you know, but there's cost savings there. That's why they're doing that. We know this. You know, but at the same time, you know, there's an inherent issue that, you know, Walmart customers, many of them cannot afford to pay 20 cents more for Print Plus at Target. So when it boils down to the basics, you know, am I going to eat tonight, or am I going to shampoo my hair with a, you know, pretty smelling shampoo? I don't know. We'll see.
People
we'll
are
see
choose.
how it goes.
I think they'll choose eat in that situation.
I think so.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of cynicism and skepticism in the UK. I mean, I was really upset that having been given this bin, and it's probably very different for us, but we have to separate all our tin cans and bottles. And when it was collected one day, I actually saw the guy said, you know, I don't know why you're bothering with that, because it all goes into landfill anyway. And I thought, well, I won't bother then. And then, so I stopped, and then they threatened to fine me, so you can't win.
You know, it's interesting. We're sort of first world centric in this discussion, and I happen to live in Latin America, and I can tell you that nobody's talking about sustainability there. And so I don't know what happens in Africa and some of the other parts of the world, but I mean, everything is styrofoam where I live. It's just awful. You can't get paper plates. It's all styrofoam. It's awful. So, I mean, there's a lot, from a global perspective, there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done. And, you know, as an industry, I think we can help impact that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good opportunity for us to be leaders. So I sense a little bit of frustration. Some of these, you know, hey, the industry's been trying to solve this problem for 30 years, or you kind of threw your hands up in the air on some of these sustainability things. With all this frustration, what keeps you covering the industry?
I love it. Well, I wouldn't know what else to do. I don't think I can do anything
Nothing
else.
else to do?
You know, who's going to take on a pensioner to give her an interesting job? So, no, I think because I've been obviously in images with photography, and then I got into being a bit of a computer geek. So instead of, I would nick computers in front of the television in the evenings, rather than doing sort of conventional things that this gender can be blamed for doing, like baking cakes. And then I got interested in colour, and then when the digital thing came along, the whole lot sort of began to knit itself together. And I love the industry. I've loved it since the day I came into it, and I don't want to do anything else. Everybody else might want me to, but I don't.
You know, even when everybody was talking doom and gloom and, you know, the recessionary periods that we've been through recently and everything, I still get really excited by talking to folks like people in the audience and what they're doing and what they're doing for their customers. And I like to call it the vibrant underbelly of the industry, because there's still going to be consolidation. There's going to be consolidation on the vendor side and on the print service provider side. But there are a growing number of companies that are doing what Guy said, you know, the innovation, the R&D, the really listening to the customers, and that's what gets me excited, is to see how what we can do as a business changes the way our customers' businesses work. I love that.
Well, when you talk about, you know, delivering a box, you know, one of the most interesting things is so everybody might get the same box, but everybody's doing something different that's bringing value to their business and growing, and I love that. I fell into this role. I had no idea what printing was all about. You know, I saw a Miller Lite label and I figured, all right, you put some color on it and put it on the bottle and there you go. You know you're drinking Miller Lite.
You're from Milwaukee.
You can tell she's from
I am from Milwaukee. I am. Yes.
No one else is drinking Miller Lite.
But it's dynamic and it's interesting. It's always exciting to, you know, find out why a business has invested in a specific press and where they're planning on taking that press to enhance their business, and what else they're doing around it and why. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's you know, not just North America. You know, what are they doing in Latin America? What are they doing in South Africa? What are the difference between those markets? What are the similarities? And it's fun.
So what's the single largest trend the folks in the audience need to be thinking about in the coming year, whether it's something that creates opportunity for them or something that creates risk? How would you answer that?
Mobile. One word. Mobile.
Mobile.
I think the fact that graphic arts printers can now look at functional printing as well without a dramatic change. The technology is the same. The fluids might be different eventually, but you know, there is definitely opportunity there.
Well, so what would you counsel them to do if mobile's the trend? What is it they need to be thinking about?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, we went through a period of time where, you know, I would give talks and I would say, so how many people have a cell phone? And like one person would raise their hand. Well, no, how many people have a cell phone in this room?
They have to look up from that.
Yeah, everybody's got it. Yeah. Hey, pay attention. Stop texting. So you know, as an industry, you know, the people are starting to use the technology more, but you know, I think that, yesterday I talked to the editor of Fast Company because I'm kind of interested in what's going on with magazines and how they're dealing with their digital issues and stuff. And he's telling me that when they design the print magazine, they have what they call a replica that they kind of put on the web or in a PDF version. But when you put that on an iPad, in their case they only support iPad at this point, when you put it on an iPad, there's a whole different thing that goes on. And I asked him, I said, do you think that, you know, because there's all these tools out there from Adobe and other people, do you think that you're going to still need, you know, a year from now, are you still going to need two separate groups of designers, one for digital and one for print? And he said yes. But the difference is, because of these tools, they can collaborate more effectively. And so, you know, we have the capabilities. I mean, we're already helping our customers do the printed stuff. We should be helping them translate that into, you know, into mobile applications that can help their customers be more effective with their customers.
I think it's a thing of working together as well, and not seeing a mobile application as a threat to the printed product, but to make sure that it does come across as a complement.
Yeah. Enhance it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cloud, social, mobile, smart. You know, like I said before, you know, I feel like we're in a Jetsons world, and it's only showing that every day that we're moving towards this crazy world of, I don't know if anybody's seen the Google Glass yet. They were actually selling them before Christmas, but it's a pair of glasses that you put on, and the glasses are smart. They track your eye. So you can actually wear them and flip through your photos, and that's real. I mean, it was $1,500. That's not a lot of money for something like that. I mean, I think if Michael J. Fox would have thought of that in Back to the Future. I mean, that stuff is here. It's real. It's now. I mean, one of the cool applications I just found out about a couple weeks ago is, using nanotechnology. And so there's a very thin coating of nanotechnology that you can put on an in-mold label. And the coating actually is hydrophobic. So when the label is put onto a package, if there's spoilage, etc., it'll automatically change colors. And they were saying that the cost of this, because nanotechnology is so thin, they could actually put a coating across an entire football field, and it would only cost a couple $100s. And there's serious value there. And stuff like that then, too, links to sustainability. So as we go through this transformation of smart, cloud, mobile, knowledge at your fingertips, at your eyeballs, subdermal, opportunities to make phone calls, all that stuff is out there in the market. And as we become better, faster, smarter, we're just gonna see all of it keep on coming.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. You're certainly excited about that. It's nice to see.
It's a little weird, but
I want to turn it around a little bit. I want to change things up, just ask you something. Oftentimes as a vendor, we'll do a press conference, and everyone gets to ask a question. And when you're standing up there and you have to answer, you're worried. Sometimes you accidentally say the wrong thing, and if you say it, that's the end. It's everywhere. It's in the Twitter sphere, it's in print, it's published, and so everyone probably has a story where they accidentally said something they shouldn't have. I'm wondering if the opposite has ever happened as writers. Did you ever write something, and then as soon as you hit send or publish, boy, did you regret it? Or any stories around that?
Well, I've got a little story, and I was quite suspicious when I was writing more about screen printing that somebody was plagiarizing my copy, but I could never prove it. And one day I got the square meter size wrong and put 200 instead of 20 or 2,000 instead of 200. And it didn't really surprise me to find that the person that had been diligently copying me also transcribed the same mistake. So I got him, but yeah.
Did you do that on purpose?
Just assumed that, it's just whatever I wrote would be safe and accurate. But no, I'd made a mistake, and I soon put a stop to it then because I had proof.
That's the person who cheats on the test, and then the person next to them says, "Me too."
Yeah.
Right in their answer.
Wow. Being an online publication, making a mistake isn't as critical because we can fix it immediately. I mean, if it goes to print, it's there. And
one of the benefits, for sure.
I learned when I first started, proof your work. Make sure people's names are spelled correctly.
Titles.
Make sure if there's a dash in between a company name that it's there. And,
or if they have a lowercase or an uppercase,
right,
get that right in the middle of the, get that right.
So, definitely doing that last run through twice before it goes.
And I think if you can get somebody else to proof what you've done, it's
absolutely,
better because it's very
Second
difficult.
Set of eyes.
In the old days, I was always told to do the final proof by turning the page upside down.
Reading it backwards, I remember.
How many errors would jump out at you.
Really?
But it's difficult when it's on screen.
Yeah, the monitors are difficult to turn around with all the cables in the back. All right, well, so in the tradition of ending these panels and interviews, we're going to try to ask you something personal about yourself. Besides going to the movies with Benny Landa, I'm wondering if you, tell us a little bit about any hobbies you have.
So, what did Benny say? He wants his competition to have hobbies, not his employees? Is that...
He wants his competitors to...
Well, I work for myself, so I guess, it doesn't matter. But I own horses, and I live in the Caribbean, and I love to ride horses. I got 4 dogs, and so I'm kind of animal-oriented for my hobbies. Plus, I do a lot of needlework.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah, I don't really have a hobby, not because of Benny. I like reading a lot.
Are you guys interviewing for a job at Landa? Is that what's going on?
No,
I'm
but
not anymore because I have a hobby. I have an independent hobby, so I'm out.
I'm not 18 yet, so...
Yeah, but I like, I've got rare breed chickens, but that's different, isn't it?
Oh, wow. How about you, Danielle?
That's a conversation stopper, but it's fresh eggs every morning.
Not as bad as the other conversation stopper, I can promise that.
This is true.
I'm a field hockey player and a coach and an official. It's been a passion of mine since I picked up a stick when I was 10 or so. So I'm very active in field hockey. I like to garden. There's nothing like fresh tomatoes from the garden when you make bruschetta with your basil that was in the garden as well. And I have a dog, and she's awesome. And yeah.
Great. Well, it was wonderful having you all here on behalf of Fred and I. It was a delight to be able to host you.
But we ought to ask you what your hobbies are, so we'll get our own
You're going to
back.
ask me my hobbies? That you get to do all the time in the other...
We don't get to ask your hobbies at the
I like
press
to host
conference.
panels with press members,
Yeah.
things like that. I also have a dog. But maybe everyone in our audience, we could just give stay in your seats because we have something for you afterward. Please give a round of applause to our panelists. It's great having you there. And if it's possible, we could put the slide up so everyone could see how to follow them on Twitter and hear more about some of those great insights. We have a raffle giveaway that I'm going to invite Gerald Walsh to come up on stage now. Those of you who went to all of the vendor booths got a chance to win, I think, some free hotel nights. So why don't we get off and let Gerald give us the winner of the raffle. Thanks, everybody.